Okay, I have 10:01 a.m. So let's go ahead and get started. I would like to thank everyone for coming. Welcome you here to the Science Circle. We had a speaker cancellation at the last minute. He has been rescheduled for later in the semester. Yeah, I was bummed too, but it turns out it's actually kind of good timing because, as many of you know, the Science Circle board has been reconstituted and reestablished as a nonprofit organization here in the United States, carrying over uh, almost all of the board members from the original organization. And while we've maintained and kept the organization running, we do have lots of conversations and talk about what we're doing, what we want to do, and what do we need to do in order to get to that place. So this week ends up being a good time to talk about our organizational efforts. And I do have, we can stick around, I do have a science update, which I will show as media from an old talk I gave and a talk I plan on updating in the near future. So let's just begin. The the Science Circle has as its uh, core discussions and presentations about scientists, about science, and that we try to have science professionals be the primary organizers and deliverers of that information. And so uh, we want to continue that trend. We think that is our core trend. You know, our core mission is to disseminate and talk science and to bring that to an international audience and to do that in as open a way as possible with a focus on Second Life, which is an open platform that anybody can join and anybody can attend. So those Saturday presentations, which are organized so far, again, typically by the board, in this case, I'm the one still doing them. And that's a matter of soliciting people to give presentations. We have a great catalog of people who presented before and are always willing to present again. And that's kind of our first resource. But we also try and engage in outreach to our networks to ask for additional people to speak. Over the past year, I've helped onboard about 3 or 4 new speakers to the Science Circle. And in fact, what we have scheduled for next week is a new one as well. And so at its core, that's really the main thing we want to make sure that we keep on top of that programming, we keep it organized, and very importantly, we keep it well advertised, that people know and have a calendar for these things. So really the other major thing that you'll see on this is that we're talking about social media. So just to step back, when we think about the major categories of things we do as an organization and need to be able to do, is to think about what our programming is, how we engage in social media, including, of course, in-world. I consider Second Life in-world to be our major social media platform. How do we do fundraising and engage in grant writing? What is our membership? How do we keep track of our membership? How do we grow our membership? How do we have laws and buy rules for our membership? And then where does the group collaborate? So to come back to the programming, more specifically, some of the ongoing programs we have is Tagline runs the Maths Club, which is a weekly uh, interest group to cover math, and he does the preparation, does the organization, does the advertising for that, and that's been, I think, a well-attended and really much beloved event. Moon-based Celine has been a long, ongoing effort for a few years, primarily organized and run by Phil Youngblood at the moment. Again, that's a little different than Maths Club in that while it is engaging in the interest of space travel and habitation on other celestial bodies, it's also more of a build team. a build and a promotion of lunar science and how humans can live outside the planets. So again, another interest group that people participate in. It's weekly, and then it's also one of our primary showcases for things like virtual worlds, best practices, and education. As an ongoing social event, we have the Sunday concert every Sunday at 7 a.m. We've had for most of the time Eel, who presents usually classic music concerts, sometimes opera, for an hour on Sundays. Again, just a nice way to start the day to chat. There may be science. If there's an interesting Saturday presentation, that tends to get quite a bit of discussion, but otherwise, just kind of a nice opportunity for people to socialize. A part of the Saturday programming, although we really initially thought we could do it at a different time, would be formal debates. I have been organizing those, and we've had, I think, four now. Three of the videos are on YouTube. And so the debates are really kind of a group decision type of work where we get a collection of people who talk about the topics, talk about the ideas, and we get volunteers from them. But then we have the presentation that I think is a nicely highly engaging activity for the whole membership. And again, it's not necessarily core science, but keep in mind that debates about the rational world is something that the science circle tries to, and rational thinking are we loosely in the domain of what we like to do. And then, of course, if you look around, we have this great region that has a lot of in-world builds, and we've done in the past science fairs. We've done region tours. What we will do to cap the end of our spring season is have some sort of region-based touring event. That is still in its early planning stages, but again, one thing to keep in mind is that this region can be a showcase and a place for people to meet. But these are all static things. Are there more things that we could think about doing with the region? I'll just list social media very quickly. The nice thing with social media is that you can kind of have one person be in charge of any particular social media and then help advertise and engage the audience. And so, in world, to keep the marketing going, of course, you'll see notices from me, and I put out the posters and chats. We have a YouTube channel. So, YouTube is a great way to archive the science and presentations that we have. Again, and of course, we have to give big credit to Skyer over here, who every week comes in and is our videographer, records it, uploads it, does any sort of editing. And so, again, someone to really appreciate in terms of the nuts and bolts working crew to make this thing happen. LinkedIn is also a place where, again, we like LinkedIn as a professional networking site that has pretty favorable um, outreach for nonprofits and small groups. Again, we don't subscribe to it in any way. We just use it as a free service, but we use it as a place to say, hey, we're a professional organization. Here's what we're doing. And Facebook, we have a group there. We've maintained that as a private group in the past because of, I think, some griefing problems. And so there's that. And again, a great way to maintain and get an event on your calendar. And of course, we have a blog by DPO that as soon as we have all of the Science Circle website back up and running, that blog will be back there. But of course, you can think of other blogs, but this is what we have ongoing. For fundraising and grants, we had a Patreon before. We will reestablish a Patreon. We think that's a great way to allow people to do um, small amounts of funds. We're not an expensive organization. We're not taking salaries. So helping maintain the region and to pay for minor expenses uh, is I think Patreon does pretty well. Yeah, let me say the Science Circle Foundation is really it's well named. It's very easy to find. One thing that we have on the website is a link to the YouTube page. And then one thing you can always bookmark. Let me just repost it again here. I've been trying to organize the YouTube channel into playlists. And so I update the playlists on occasion. You can always just bookmark that or make it a favorite or subscribe. Yeah, that's right. Click like, subscribe. That's what you want to do with the YouTube channel. Let's see. And then again, specifically for membership, we have the in-world group, and that has a place for conversation, place advertising. We would the board maintains the estate management, which is what relates to the in-world bills, but it'd be nice to have just someone who helps maintain and writes rules. And we have an ethics committee that Delia and other people are involved with. So again, if you have a grievance with someone else in the group or a complaint that is not just directly dealable with, uh, you can always file and work with them. And of course, as a science group in Second Life, we're an educational group, we're a science group, we have a little bit of social activity. We would love to, there are other groups that think about mind health. These are all things that are sensible to collaborate with. And we've had some loose associations and collaborative work that we've done. A couple weeks ago, I we coordinated a Scientia Science Circle weekend between me and George. We had a couple summers ago an aging discussion group that was a collaboration between Whole Brain Health and Science Circle. And so again, we can think about more. We have had some collaborations. We are a part of VWEC, the Virtual Worlds Education Consortium, but could we also expand and maintain more presence and organize more around that too? So within these spaces, we would love to have more organizational capacity, right? If we could have more people help us coordinate these things, then that would make our group more robust and give us more people who know what's going on, and potentially give us the well. So Syzygy asks, are we connected to Scientia in any way? And again, we don't, as an organization and these other groups within science, within the Second Life, there's no like formal decree, uh, organizational doc that says we are connected. What we have is a common interest, and we have lots of uh, you know members, people who are members of both, and friendly relations on both. Uh, but then we don't necessarily do anything that's we aren't connected. But it'd be nice to coordinate more, right? And make sure that we have. But one thing to keep also in mind, Syzygy, when we think about these things, is we also want to maintain, every group wants to maintain their unique identity and what it is they do, and then not also get have to do a lot of complicated decision making because of other interests. And so I think, you know, uh, so for example, the VWEC is a fairly clear relationship in that the VWEC is partly organized through Linden Labs. So they actually relocated people to, in a 2D sense, we're close to each other. If you take a look at your world map, you'll see a lot of education related islands nearby. They provide an opportunity for us to advertise within their group and on their webpage and on their calendar. And then we help them look good by being a well-organized, active group that gives the consortium as a whole this idea that Second Life is a vibrant place to do things that are educational or sciencey. But again, they don't tell us what to do, and so far we don't actually do a lot of representation and ask them to do stuff for us. So that's kind of where that space is too, if that makes sense. So again, from an organizing principle, again, this just came from the idea of what it is we already do. It seems like there are kind of five major areas of work that goes into running this organization. And so there's programming, which again, when you really think about it, is one of the key elements of getting people engaged and having stuff to do. And that's what a programming person would be involved with, but also helping onboard new speakers, helping write the organizational docs, make sure that if there's any programming going on, that there's a basis for making sure it gets out in social media and gets well advertised. Social media, again, this is a place to uh, advertise what we do. But in some cases, the social media platforms are their own level of engagement. They're their own chat spaces. They're their own places for input and feedback and conversations that, again, we can find a way to maintain that Science Circle brand. And those can be events that go on. Collaboration, again, this is just more of a representation, collaboration type of thing. But you can also think about it. What are some you know, uh, these are things we do, and we want to make sure that our place within Second Life and within the larger social media, we can be more organized sometimes, right? Have joint events, maybe joint sponsor things, have crosstalk that makes a lot of sense. And again, people rarely join only one group that they're interested in, right? Uh, so that sorry, they only people very rarely only join one group that is their major interest. They'll join all the things that relate to their interest. Uh, and again, the collaboration also can just sometimes be a little bit of marketing. There are a lot of real world, for example, skeptics organizations. There's also Darwin Day. There's a Darwin Day, social media presence. And so we've tried to work within some of that too. Now, fundraising and grants, I think is fairly straightforward. Like I said, the main things that we would need would be someone who could help us advertise, say the Patreon, help us determine what are good levels. And then if there, especially with Patreon, because there are rewards associated with the perks that people are subscribing to, then that person would be responsible for organizing and making sure, collaborating with the programming to say, hey, let's make sure we do these perks. Let's make sure that we're on top of this. Let's make sure people get the things that they're expecting out of their donations. And then membership and outreach. Again, one thing that we want to have is a very clear set of rules and by rules and keep track of our membership. Sometimes ask for feedback, do surveys of your own membership to say, hey, what can we or can't we do better? But then also to try and grow the organization. Can they find marketing opportunities or find collaborative events that just help us grow the membership and help people find a place within the group? So, does anybody kind of have any questions or any thoughts on that larger uh, organizational structure of the things that we do? Is there anything I'm missing? So, syzygy, that's interesting. You ask about possible publications. Are you thinking things like Virtual Education Journal, or this more recent VWEC publication on uh, virtual education? Yeah, I've thought about that. I'm not a writer. I hate sitting down and writing. Um, but that would be the type of thing that would be very helpful for us to get out there, and you need like an editor type person to be responsible and help organize those things. But again, so now that you've brought up something, let me direct your attention over here. So if you look above my head, you hopefully see a media on a prim of a slide, what looks like a slide presentation. This is a Google Doc that if you click on it, you can edit it. And I put in a few text boxes here. The first thing you may want to do is if you look at the lower left, there's a little greater than sign. It tells you to hide the film strip. That'll give you a little more space to look. But if you click on this in Second Life, you click as an anonymous person, and then you should be able to do some typing. Like this is Steven typing, and I'm typing very poorly. So if you want to have feedback now, if you want to get provided some feedback that we can record and keep it track of, that'd be great. So I'm just going to say Sis suggested publishing, like VEJ or the VWEC. I think it's a Zine. Is that the right word? It's a electronic only publication. So I think those are really good suggestions. If you guys have anything else that you would suggest, or if there's anything you want me to get back to you on later, then please fill that out. You can also send me a note card. Send me or Mike a note card. That works too. But that's also a place where we can do this live. All right, let's go to the next slide. If there's not any other, other things that come out of the Moonbase group. Well, I think that's something where, in a very larger picture space, the Moonbase is something that could be an interesting educational platform. And so maybe there's some outreach where, you talk to the International Space Society or uh, or like the or other nonprofits that do space education and see if there's a way to turn that into something they would love to access or something we collaborate on, something that becomes a grant, something that becomes an immersed experience. So I think that's I don't want to talk too much about what Phil has in mind, but those are things I know we as a group have talked about. Yeah, no, I think, one very early idea, I think before Phil took over the project, is we really wanted to see if we could turn it into something reflective of a practice run of being on the moon. Like, what would you do on a daily basis? What would you need uh, that had a certain spatial element to it? So, yeah, we're thinking about that. If you get those would be good to bring up to Phil by coming to the moon base. But for everyone who's here, this is all a very good example of the type of things that we can do. It's like once we start having a interest group and they start building something of interest, or a social media presence, or something like a video or dialogue, then these are things that we can also see what more can come out of them to engage more people in science. Yeah, or planetary society. Yeah, I don't have a catalog of space and science interest groups offhand. There are some in Second Life, and I know some of them are connected to groups that are out there. All right, let me go on to the next one. So, in terms of thinking about additional initiatives, and these can be temporary, these can be permanent, these can be weekly, these can be monthly, these can be uh, on some sort of particular date. Like, we have Earth Day, we have International Science Day, we have Women in Science Days, we have Moon Days, we have Sundays. Those are all like celebrations on a calendar that you could do a special event. And so in terms of programming, if people wanted to run discussions, we have lots of one thing that keeps happening while we're here is people keep talking about AI. People can't stop talking about AI. So what would happen if we got together someone to organize an AI discussion group? But not just AI. What about fraud in science? What about popularization of science? What about more conversations about space? What about things that are happening with aging? Again, I've done a couple discussion groups over the summers. I've limited them to the summers on biotechnology and agriculture, and I've done ones on aging. Those are, you know, relatively low lift, low weight things to organize and discuss. Yeah, so well, so we used to have an in-world publication using one of these like book publisher things. I would love to go back to doing that, but that being the publisher of something like that, even if it's just monthly or quarterly, there is a huge amount of work because that editor needs to solicit writers, solicit photographers, do the copy editing, and put it all together. So I would love to support that effort, but we really need someone to step up and say, I will be the magazine publisher. Oh yeah, yeah. If we could do talks. Well, again, so for example, I do a yearly Darwin Day talk, right? So Darwin Day is the thing, and we can think about other scientists. Maybe, Kepler. We have a Kepler celebration every year. So those are the types of things that I think are really cool to think about. Um, yeah, and there's this. If I get this feed in YouTube and I watch it on occasion, but like the Nobel Prize channel will have a roundtable of Nobel laureates talking about random topic. That's the type of thing we could do too. We could always say, let's have, here's a catalog here, 20 scientists to present for the science circle. And then I'm, you know, Frank Schmo, and I don't know anything about the topic, and I'm not a scientist, but I'm happy to organize and have a roundtable of people talking, of organizing those people to have a talk about something interesting and record it. Well, academic writings are another step up. I think those usually have some sort of every journal has a purpose driven thing that they're trying to get papers out for. So we have to see where we fit in that. Yeah. Noble gas price. All right. Sorry. So in terms of that engagement and activities that we have, we did for a while had a podcast. It was an interview podcast. That sounded great. You can still access it. We could have a weekly podcast that does science news. We could have a rotating set of topics, and then put that out to the Apple, podcast thing, or wherever you get your podcast. So those are things that, if anybody, again, these are great ideas that fit within our mission, and they can get us out there. Require a little bit more uh, activity. Social media. I mean, I still want to review exactly what we do and don't get out of LinkedIn and Facebook. There might be other ones that are a little more in line with what people will put eyes on. I don't know. And also, what's the purpose of having the social media? Again, it certainly helps for finding collaborators and outreach, but maybe we want to be more engaged in terms of having conversations and discussions. So blogging is a place that we can blog about science topics and what Science Circle does, but we can also have these places where there are discussion forums. So that's something we should be doing. And Substack, for example, is a platform that is largely designed around that. And then again, kind of similar to Patreon, does have a way of giving people the opportunity to donate for that effort. So yeah, Brian E mentions the Science Friday group listens to weekly science programs. That's actually, I think, now there was an avatar in Science Circle called Celestial Nightfire, and she used to organize those, and those would be live streams that they could watch. They don't live stream those as they used to, right? So now you have to find different radio stations that play them at a particular time. Um, so no, I'm saying Celestial Nightfire used to. Wait, sorry. Yeah, yeah. Science Friday is NPR. BBC also has the Naked Scientist, but there's a Science Friday group, and what they do is also listen to Naked Science and other science things on a weekly basis. I think is what we're talking is the main conversation. Again, I don't want to step on their toes. I think that what they do is a cool thing. If they're doing it live, I don't know that we add anything to that. But if we had other things we wanted to do, or had other like live listening conversations, and then had in-world discussion, that would be great. I We used to do that. There's an avatar named Celestial Nightfire that used to organize those things, uh, and then they used to be every Sunday, but they're gone. Uh, Again, having more effort to do fundraising grants, like I mentioned. Are there other educational grants? Are there National Science Foundation grants? Are there National Endowment of the Arts grants that are places where, if we just had a little more time and a little bit of look ahead effort, could we identify things where then the group can put some effort into setting ourselves up to be good for an application, and then organize an application around them? So again, some of that just requires a little bit of eyeballs and checking on it to see, um, what we could or could not do. And one thing we don't do in Science Circle, lots of places do have like fun drives, right? We can have, I mean, I know there are lots of motorcycle groups that like sell motorcycles, or they have auctions. We've never done anything like that. It might be a nice little way to do something that's both social and fun, but also a little bit of a way to raise some lindens, so we can pay for people's uploads, pay for the region, uh, things like that. Let's see. And then membership, again, while it's really important that we maintain our membership and grow our membership, maybe the membership can also be about fun stuff and organizing, a little bit more about what we do, organize the region. You can even do simple things like having game nights, right? Science themed game nights would always be kind of fun. And then collaboration, again, if we can build up more collaborations, maybe that's a place where, again, we help maintain our membership. We find new people to give presentations or to lead discussion groups that are the scientists, but then more people, whether you're a scientist or not, who want to organize these things. So this is the place we would really love to, uh, again, just grow our organization and maintain a very robust and active set of activities. Ira. Oh yeah, Ira. I used to go to his in-world live broadcasts of Science Friday when I was teaching, and I would take my students to those, and those were great. But eventually they pulled out, and so that's always been a bit of a bummer. Um, who knows? Maybe we could attract. If anybody knows Ira Flato personally, maybe we can attract him back into the Science Circle, get some programming going on there. So let me know. let's see. Okay, so last slide. Again, the last thing I want to talk about is, first of all, I just want to acknowledge, and I think we'll come back to this again later more formally, but Gus Pliskin, who's a group member here, he hasn't presented yet, but he's on the 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 list of candidates to present. He has participated in the formal debates. He's been working on the back end to help us get the Science Circle webpage transferred from its original domain onto a new hosting domain, but we're still not at that point where we can actually edit or fix it or add stuff to it. So we're getting there. But first of all, let's applaud Gus for his big effort. A little bit of a local chat, yay Gus time here. But what we have here, what I have are some quick screenshots of the front page of our web page, and let me just throw it in the local chat. That if you want to take a look at the page as a whole, it's actually, you can take a look at it on the, from your point of view, the media board that's up on your right is also our web page. So now's the time just to ask, what do people want out of the web page? And so you can either we can do this as a very focused discussion. So if you just want to put it in local chat, that's fine. Or if you want to use this board up here to my left and add in, you know, I'm going to put in web page wants. You can go ahead and add anything you want in there. I'm going to fix my typos. Jeez. Oh, it actually even has the autocorrect up here. Nice. So let's see. The Science Circle Challenge. Well, so actually, maybe you bring up almost like a bit of a game show, showman type activity where we have like a almost like a Shark Tank or a Stump the Judge type of contest, and we could have that be some regular programming, or maybe just an interesting solution to a problem, not necessarily a challenge, but an interesting solution to a problem, or maybe even an in-world build. I like this idea. So I'm gonna capture this into the slideshow. And actually, if you want to log into it, I'll just share the link again, put it in local chat. So if you want to just open it again, if you have a Gmail account, it will say you're logging in, but we don't have an organizational account that can actually track who does or does not log in. So that's that as well. So yeah, virtual prizes sounds great. So for me, so let me say, for me, the web page, if you take a look at it, it has a lot of what is the organization, how could you reach us, what are our rules and interests, our goals, our vision. It importantly has a calendar. That way, anybody who's always curious what's going on, hit that calendar. The rules and bylaws of the group. Again, the ability to connect with the ethics committee, biographies of the speakers, as well as a lot of their archival material. One thing that we have always striven to do, but it's also a lot of organizational effort, is that anybody's slide deck that presents, we ask them to give it to us so we can host it on the website. And that way we always have an archive of the slides to distribute as well. But what more? Is there anything more that people would particularly like? There's again, Brent, DPO's blog is on there. Do people want science news? That's a lot of time and effort to keep on top of too, though. Has anybody ever said, "Gosh, I wish the website had this"? Yeah, well, so Syzygy, I mean, and you post a lot of stuff in the Facebook group of, hey, here's science news. I'm not sure that the web page may not be the best place to put that because then you don't have a chance to have a discussion or feedback. Whereas in Facebook, you can comment and say and multiple people can say stuff about it. So to me, that would be an interesting place to do that. Yeah, link to science news. If we had some way of automating like a feed, I think that'd actually be a really cool way of doing it. Although sometimes you never know what comes across the feed. Yeah. One thing we also probably want to come up with as well is that for any speaker who talks, like how much can they we can ask, hey, join the Facebook, join the LinkedIn. Don't just let us advertise for you. Maybe make some commentary or link back to your faculty page or link back. There's this opportunity for people to uh, help market themselves and help draw more people in, and that it helps draws people to them, helps draw people to us, and then again keep that frequency of collisions going. Oh, well, interesting tagline. So we could ask the speakers, hey, maybe give people um, a challenge to ask for their talk. Yeah, interviews. And so that's one thing I think we had an effort near the end of Chantel's time that she wanted to have every board member interviewed, every board member with the profile and a little bit more information about everyone on the board at least. But it'd be nice to do it for the speakers. Well, and the thing too, maybe if we have like a science news feed, then that could be a place to a genesis for various discussions or conversations in either in world or uh, on our social media platforms. I'm gonna ask a quick question here. Does anybody here use PrimFeed? Does anybody say, "Oh, I really like having the connection between an SL avatar and this one social media page"? So PrimFeed is kind of my go-to place. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, you're giving me what you just said there. There's what could be an interesting kind of game show challenge would be spot the fake news. So, Skeptic's Guide to the Universe does a thing where the host uh, has three news stories, two of which are real, one of which is either entirely made up or based on a news story, but he lies about some component, and he asks his panelists to identify which ones are true, which one's the false one. Well, we could do the type of thing with a fake news feed or a fake news organization. Again, we would have to have someone help to organize that. Oh yeah, wait, don't tell me. I've heard that. Good point, Hope. Yeah, I like that one. Anyway, so to close up, this is the last slide. I wanted to make sure you guys knew what the organization as a whole is doing, who's been involved in the various efforts that are ongoing, the places and organization that we want to do. If you are interested in volunteering for something that has been mentioned here, or you have an idea of your own that you think the Science Circle could sponsor and fits within our mission, these are things where we want to have those conversations. We want to hear from you. And then that way we can start building and having more engaged programming for what we do as a group. And again, starting place is think about these. Again, if you are willing to volunteer, be one of our Saturday morning speakers, that's great. If you want to organize something like a maths club or a moon-based build project, that type of thing is great. But if you want to just facilitate discussions, if you want to organize these game shows or some of these ideas, and You don't have to be a scientist to do these things. You just have to be someone interested, and then we as a group will help uh, ask people to participate. Elaine mentions tours. Yeah, one thing we could do is just have, a standing person or office hours where someone familiar with all the builds on the website advertises, hey, come by and we'll walk through the various builds that are here. Or we can tour outside spots. Now we have a history of doing that. And what I think we're going to do is, instead of having the last 4 weeks of every season be visit outside regions, that'll actually just be the fall speaker series. So in December, tour a bunch of sites. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to some degree, I've done it a couple times for myself, but it's mostly Chantel, that there is an extra organizational lift and ask to keep those things organized and planned and everything, and to keep them fresh and new. So that's something uh, for right now, just doing it once per season, once every 2 seasons works best. Yeah, and that's the fun thing about some of these things is they don't have to be core science, right? They can be something that's, archaeology science. These can be social science. These can be, you know, um, uh, a little bit looser and just related to history. And we just want to have, oh, what are these factual representations of history in Second Life? And so, again, you can think very expansively, especially once we get into the different types of programming we could do. Ask an astronomer. Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, and that's the type of thing too that we could you can have ask a chemist and actually have an in-world event. We can have it recorded and then make sure we post it on a place where we have an ongoing discussion, and make sure that the person being asked is willing to come back a week later, answer comments on the webpage. That way we get that engagement. All right, if I can find a geneticist for you, says we'll do that. Max, yeah, all these things. So these are all and again, I think the more we kind of base these things as Second Life engaged with an audience types of things that we do live, but there are spaces for some of these where maybe within Science Circle we solicit a bunch of questions, and then we do just like a YouTube video of the avatar answering those things. So the actual answering doesn't have to be live, but it can be fun and engaging content. Yeah, these things do require continuing engagement. And I think, my sense of it is that we have lots of people who are interested in doing these things. And if we have a good organization around it, it's not that much work in most cases, as long as it's well organized. All right. Is anybody else adding commentary to the slide deck? Again, if you're interested in volunteering, you can also send me an email. My email is stevenzootfly@gmail.com. You can also find that information on the website. I'm pretty sure our email addresses are on the board page, or at least the ability to connect to us in world. I don't recommend IMs. IMs are a bit dicey because you never know. Um, yeah, board of directors, our profiles are there, but not contact information. But you can use those. You can use those to connect to people. All right. All right. Well, this is the end of what I kind of formally put together. Also, the end of, again, that was my ask, is if you are interested in commenting with more suggestions, please let us know. If you're interested in volunteering, again, we have some ideas for how to do this as an organizational group. But right now, just in terms of the basic organization we have, that's all. Again, what I will do is I will put this PDF. I'll follow up with the notice in World and make sure everyone has access to the PDF for the slides. Um, All right, so I think I'm done. I think I'm done. So let's have Mike take the floor. Fellow board member Mike Shaw.
Okay, let's see. Can anyone hear me? Awesome. Okay, because it's always hit or miss when I log in with these things. First of all, on behalf of those of us who are on the board, I would like to thank you for your continuing support and come in week after week and just making the science circle all that it can be. I really want to thank Stephen for stepping up as president, and he's putting a tremendous amount of effort, um, during a time that's busy for him as well. So, I want to definitely thank Stephen. Um, and it's been an interesting time the last 6 months creating the Science Circle Foundation Inc. is essentially the real name of it, and we're incorporated in Illinois. We have the official 503C status as a tax exempt organization, and there's even a bank account. Um, Now, getting that bank account actually to do stuff electronically, um, it is probably going to have another couple of trips to the bank for me, but we at least have the traditional bank account. Just wanted to mention, I know there are a couple of people who are more interested in continuing to do banking by sending checks and stuff. If you're interested in doing that, even before we have Patreon set up, you can contact me, and um, we can you can send me checks and I'll deposit them. I'll give you my email address. I'm just typing that right now. I think it's just a Gmail. No, okay, that should do that. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to say. I want to thank Stephen again, and Natalie, and Phil, and Diane for all the efforts, both present and continuing. And I'll just be quiet now.
Yeah, sorry. One thing to I mentioned that we are an official 501c3. We are working the uh, opportunities, and eventually we'll say, hey, look, you can donate by PayPal. We'll make sure you get information if for tax purposes that you made a donation to an established nonprofit. But if you want to maintain anonymity, we will have tip jars and stuff that we'll put out in world. Again, I don't know how Patreon verifies how accounting works there, but if Patreon is something where you can be anonymous, essentially, I mean, we'll have some sort of contact information, but that may not be your real life identity. We'll have that. But again, as a 501c3, we'll be able to say you made this official donation for tax purposes too. And we want to make that available. We're still getting it all organized.
Hi, this is Hope. Can you hear me?
Hearing you fine.
I'm not clear on how we give donations. I kind of was doing something else when Mike was talking. So if we want to give a donation, say by check, how do we do that? Or would you rather have PayPal, or would you rather have in-world Linden's? What's best?
We'll do all the common things that we have that most nonprofits do. We'll have a link on a web page to a PayPal. There are also these QR codes that can be set up to do that. We'll have QR codes in world and on the web page. But we'll take checks. We'll have an official bank um, at what we'll call our banking address that you can send stuff to. Lindens are fine. Again, Lindens We may or may not be able to give you something that clarifies. I don't know how that route works in terms of if you want a letter from us saying you donated for tax purposes. I don't know how that would work with Linden's, but we'll certainly make that available if you want to do that.
No, that's not necessary. It's just I was wondering how you would prefer the donation. That's all.
Oh, I think ultimately PayPal will probably be the easiest because we'll have a PayPal account set up with an email that is representative of the board, and then that'll just go directly into our banking checking account. And so I think PayPal will ultimately be the easiest one.
Is that already set up, or are you going to set it up?
Going to set it up. So in about a month, we'll definitely have it within a month.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else or anything with that? Other than that, again, let me say, Robert does a great job of being a videographer, uh, but I would presume he's not available all the time. So if you're someone who has videographer experience and wants to just let us know you're available to do that, and Robert says, I can't do that one, then let us just know that. So that way, if we have other non-Saturday events, we have a wide available number of video cameras we can rely on. So if Mike's good, okay, and the cat is good, then I think what we'll do is leave it there. All right. Okay, so yeah, let me say the sciencecircle.org webpage is now reestablished. I would not use the term active because we can't update it yet. We still need an administrative web editor login that we don't yet have. And that's a key part of getting it edited. But it is live, it is online. Yeah, I mean, if you go to it now, you'll see there are no events that are upcoming, but it has past events. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and close it up here. Thank you all. Have a great weekend. Next week we have, again, like I said, a new outside speaker. I'll get that marketed and advertised starting this weekend. And hope you all have a good weekend. Enjoy.